Nwabugo lost her mother when she needed her the most, and everything changed from there. What followed was pain, silence, and a life lived in the shadows. But this girl, she wasn't born to be forgotten. Stay with me to find out how her story unravels. The rain fell without stopping for 3 days the moment she was born. The villagers said it was a sign from the heavens, and her parents named her Nwabugo, meaning child is glory. Her father, Obina, was a woodcarver who made beautiful things with his hands. Her mother, Nkejilim, was a healer who was gentle and kind. Their home was full of laughter, the smell of good food, and love. When Nwabugo turned 6, a mysterious illness swept across the village. Many people fell sick, but unfortunately, Nkejilim was among the people who did not survive. Nwabugo held her mother's cloth and cried until she had no voice left. The village drum sounded for mourning, and everything changed. After her mother died, her father stopped smiling. He spent long hours sitting under the kola tree, staring into the distance as if his heart had disappeared. Not long after, he married Ifunanya. People whispered about her sharp eyes and her cold smile. She brought gifts and tried to bring joy into the house. Nwabugo, lonely and longing for a mother's love, tried to accept her. But Ifunanya's love was not real. It came with rules and fear. If Nwabugo did not do exactly what she wanted, there was no kindness. At first, it was the small things. Stand up straight. Don't look at me like that. You eat too slowly. Then came the chores. Nwabugo was told to fetch water, sweep, cook, wash clothes until she was no longer a child in her own home. From morning till night, Nwabugo worked without rest. Her step-siblings Chika and Tobe dressed in the finest clothes and ate well, while she wore old rags and ate scraps. During the yam festival, the family feasted on pounded yam and egusi soup, while Nwabugo sat on the floor eating garri and wiping away her tears. When she turned to her father for help, he looked away and said, "She's your mother now. Be grateful you have a roof." And from that day, Nwabugo learned she was alone. The punishments came quickly. A dropped plate, a lie from the other children, a look she didn't give right. Ifunanya's cane would fall hard. The pain was sharp and the voice that punished was even louder. One day, Nwabugo made the soup too salty. That night, she was beaten so badly her lips bled. She hid behind the kitchen and cried in silence. Sometimes she stood by the river and thought about walking into the water, letting it carry her far away, but something stopped her. Maybe her mother's spirit, maybe it was a memory of a better time. Deep inside, even with all the pain, a small voice whispered that her story was not finished, that the wind will soon change. Seasons passed, but as Nwabugo grew taller, her world only grew heavier. She lived in a house filled with people, yet she felt invisible, like a ghost, unseen, unheard, and unloved. When school resumed, she watched from the compound as Chika, Tobe, and all the other children in the village marched off in polished shoes. Her heart ached with questions she dared not speak. One day, she finally found the courage. "Papa, please, I want to go to school too," she begged. Her father replied, "You? Who will cook? Who will clean? Your mother said girls do not need too much education. When you grow up, you will marry." That night, she didn't cry much. She laid on her mat and counted the raindrops as they landed. The rhythm reminded her of her mother's lullaby. She closed her eyes and imagined a world where things were different, where she wore a school uniform, had a desk, book, and a pen. A world where she raised her hand in class and someone called her name with kindness. But dreams in her world were fragile, like clay before fire. The next morning, she returned to her duties, but something inside her had shifted. Something small but firm, like a buried seed pushing against the earth. She no longer asked for help. She watched, listened, and learned in silence. Each time Tobe returned from school and carelessly tossed his books aside, Nwabugo picked them up when no one was looking. She studied his notebooks under the moonlight, tracing each letter with her finger. When Chika read aloud, practicing her passages, Nwabugo hid in the shadows and memorized every word. They didn't know she was learning. They didn't know that in the heart of ashes, something brilliant was forming. The sun that rose that morning was cruel. It burned the village without mercy, turning clay paths to dust and air to steam. Ifunanya, as usual, backed her orders from under the shade. Nwabugo, fetch water, my throat is drier than your lazy bones. Nwabugo walked slowly down the path to the old village well, her bare feet kicking up clouds of dust. The well sat near the edge of the forest, forgotten by most. As Nwabugo approached, she saw an old woman, bent like a bow struggling to draw water. Her wrapper was torn, her hair wild, and her eyes clouded like morning mist. Nwabugo set down her pot and took the rope from the old woman's hands. She helped the woman draw water and poured it carefully. Her arms ached, but she did not stop until the woman had had enough. When she was done fetching the water, the old woman finally spoke. You carry the burden of 10 spirits on your back, child. Your eyes are tired, but they still shine. Your hands bleed, but you still give. The old woman's voice was rapsy, like dried leaves brushing stone. Tell me your story, she said. For reasons Nwabugo couldn't explain, she told the old woman everything. She spoke of her mother's death, of her father's silence, of Ifunanya's wrath, of school she would never know, of dreams she dared not speak aloud. When she finished, her voice was hollow. The old woman placed a wrinkled hand on her shoulders. Pain has shaped you, but it has not broken you, she said. Then she pointed behind the trees. My son lives beyond the hill. He has no child, no wife, only wisdom and wealth that has grown lonely. Go to him. Tell him you helped an old woman who others did not see. He will know what to do. Nwabugo stared at her unsure. Mama, I don't even know his name. You will, she said. Just follow the road. And like mist, she was gone. The sun had begun its slow descent when Nwabugo got to the edge of the forest. Her feet bled, her arms ached, but her heart was alive. A tiny flame burned inside her. At last, she reached a compound hidden between two hills. The gate was opened and silence wrapped around her like a cloth. Suddenly, she heard a voice. Who enters my home with feet of dust and spirit of thunder? She replied nervously. I helped a woman at the old well. She told me to find her son. She said he would understand. The man replied, her name is Adaeze. She is the last of the rain seers. She tests hearts to find those who carry the spirit of compassion. My name is Obiajulu. I am a healer, a reader of signs, a gatherer of forgotten things. Today, the spirits have brought me a daughter. Nwabugo's eyes widened in shock and hope. Obiajulu invited her into his home. Come, he said, eat and rest. Your new journey begins here. Nwabugo woke up on a bed softer than anything she had ever known. For the first time in years, she had slept without fear. No shouting, no beatings, no hunger twisting her belly. The door opened and Obiajulu entered, carrying a steaming bowl of millet porridge and fresh pawpaw slices. Good morning, daughter, he said with a smile. Nwabugo blinked. No one had called her that in years, especially not with love. I will care for you, he said. You are to stay here as my child, and you, Nwabugo, will learn. You will go to school. That same day, she chose new clothes and her first school bag. When Nwabugo resumed school, the other students stared at her because of her strange accent, her quiet ways, and her wide eyes. But Nwabugo didn't care. She listened and absorbed knowledge like dry earth drinks rain. Within weeks, teachers spoke in awe of the girl who answered questions no one else could. She came early, stayed late, and studied even during break time. In the evenings, Obiajulu taught her ancient knowledge, herbal healing, proverbs, the names of stars and rivers, and how to honor ancestors. Months turned into years. Fear left her eyes, her hands were skilled, and her voice had strength. By the time she finished secondary school, she had won every academic prize in the region. Obiajulu sent her to the cities to study medicine. She will be the daughter who heals the wounds of others, he said. Years flowed like a slow river. Nwabugo, now a doctor, healed broken bodies and mended shattered lives. But shadows still lingered in her heart. News came that her father was ill. Her step-siblings sent endless messages filled with blame, guilt, and calling her a traitor for leaving them behind. She returned to the same compound where her story began, only now the walls seemed smaller and the air heavier. Her stepmother told her to help them. She said she gave her everything. Nwabugo gave them enough money to ease their immediate needs but did not promise more. Her heart whispered forgiveness but also drew lines where love met pain. She married a kind man who loved her fiercely. Together, they built a home filled with laughter, respect, and dreams. Sometimes, when the wind carried the scent of rain and ash, Nwabugo remembered the old well, the scruffy lady, and the son who saved her. Her story, written in tears and fire, was far from over.